Okay, we are live again, and I hope this will be instructive and edifying for those that will watch it. I keep forgetting to announce the Lenten series that will be publishing again for the third year until the end of the video. So I figured I should do it at the beginning of the video this time. So just as a quick, and maybe people will join while I'm talking about this. So the every year at during Lent, actually beginning on the Sunday of the Publican and the Pharisee, which is just a little over a week away, all the way up until Pascha and through Bright Week, we publish on YouTube recordings of the homilies of Saint Innocent of Kherson, who was a bishop of the in the 19th century. Beautiful homilies, stunning homilies. Some of them are longer, some of them are shorter. And we've translated them. I've translated them, and I have a very good friend of mine who is also much more competent than I am in languages and is a philologist and whatnot. He's editing them. So we will be publishing those. These are only available during Lent, from the time they're republished or reopened on each day that they're appropriate for, right? So the homily for the Publican and the Pharisee is published on the Sunday of the Publican and the Pharisee. The homily for example, the Clean Wednesday is published on Clean Wednesday, and so on and so forth until Pascha. And then as soon as we hit Pascha, they all disappear until next year. So there's some incentive to attend to them while they're available, and we have some exciting news about that translation project and some other projects coming up as well. So please subscribe and follow, share with your friends, with your family, and whatnot. So enough with the announcements. As far as we are continuing our Lenten series, I can see the bitrate again we're having some problems. Okay, I'm gonna try to fix this. Bitrate. No, it is 6,000. Why? Why is it's saying, for whatever reason, my bitrate is not high enough, it says, but it should be high enough. Anyway, apologize, I am a one-man show so far. So, trying to do this on the fly. Should be. I hope it's not too much of a problem, not too much of an issue. As I was saying, this is the second episode of our series on liturgics, and we'll be going over the ranks of services. So just as a review of our first episode on liturgics, we covered the different cycles. Of course, we went very roughly over the different cogs in the liturgical life, or the liturgical cycles that determine what hymns and what prayers are read at each of the daily services, and then we went over the daily services. So, as a reminder of the most important book for liturgics, it's this book. This is a Slavonic copy of the Typicon from 1906. And for a book that's over 100 years old, it's not in too bad of condition. So this again, as I said in our first course, and everything that I'll be talking about has only to do with the Jerusalem Typicon that has its roots in the rule of Saint Saba from the 4th century. So I did finally find out some information about the Greek Typicon, which apparently, at least since the 1800s or so, they have followed a different Typicon, maybe earlier as well. But to my understanding, all of the Orthodox churches followed the Jerusalem Typicon for about 1,000 years from the 4th century, 5th century, actually probably so 5th or 6th century up until 15th or 16th centuries, when they were revised, or the Greek, the ecumenical patriarch, as far as I, again, have been able to understand, reverted back to a different typicon. So anyway, I'm actually going to be looking into that more, and maybe we'll have another episode about the different typicons. Because again, most of what I'll be going over has the most relevance for the Slavic traditions that continue to follow the Jerusalem typicon. So, in this book, we have all of the cycles, right? We have the daily cycle of services. That is covered what psalms and what hymns. You might hear my children in the background there. Maybe not, but in this book, we have the daily cycle of services, which again, there are 8 or 9 services. They are the 4 hours, right? First hour, third hour, 6th hour, 9th hour, and then Vespers, Compline, Midnight Office, and Matins. Or if we do them in order, it will be Vespers, Compline, Midnight Office, Matins, first hour, third hour, 6th hour, 9th hour, and then we also say, I said 9, if we include Divine Liturgy, which is part of the daily cycle of services. It goes right after 3rd and 6th hour, before 9th hour. 9th hour is the final service that ends the daily cycle for the services. And then we have, in this book, we also have what's called the Millennian calendar, right? The services, or the hymns or the services that are for each calendar day of the year, right? So the January 1st, September 30th, June 12th, whatever, all the different days, they are prescribed in here. The Millennian calendar is actually about a third of this book. Let's see, here we go. Right from there, and September. So it's about that. That much of this book is just the Millennian calendar, right? So it covers all the saints' feast days and the non-movable feast days. And then we have, in this, after the Millennian, we have the Triodian, right? We have the rubrics for Great Lent, starting with the Sunday of the Publican and the Pharisee, all the way through till Pascha, and then from Pascha all the way till Pentecost. And then from Pentecost, we have the list of readings all the way through from that Pentecost, the daily readings all the way until the beginning of the next Triodian cycle, or Paschal cycle, Pentecostarian cycle, right? Anyway. And then we have the Octoekos as well, which is the weekly cycle that we talked about as well, the 8 tones that cycle through, beginning also from Pascha, and then they begin again at Pentecost, and they continue to cycle through them all the way until the cycle begins again. So that's what we covered last week. Now we will talk about, so into the context of the daily cycle of services, we have to put the variable portions from these other cogs, right? The Millennian calendar, the Octoekos, the Triodian or the Pentecostarian, whatever relevant day it is, we have to put the variable portions into the daily cycle of services to get the service that is supposed to be served for that day. So let's get into it. I have a nice graphic. Oops, turned off my audio. I meant to, there we go. Okay, so on this, in this graphic, sorry, 1 second. Okay, sorry. Interrupted by one of my children. We have here on the top the 6 rank of services as they are presented in the Typicon. Now, and actually I'll take this graphic off. If you see at the top there, we have these little signs, right? For the very top column, We have a circle, a cross with a circle around it, and then we have a half circle with a cross, this other funny symbol that's red, and then another funny symbol that's black, and then no sign, right? So those are signs that we have in the Menaion. So if we open up the Menaion, and let's find, for example, this service here. It has that funny symbol. Up, where is the camera? There it is. The funny symbol that's red. And if we look at our nice chart here, that would indicate that service is a doxology service. Now we go to this day. Oh, wrong way. Forget, it's always backwards. You can see the cross there. So we go to our nice chart, and we know that is a polyelios service. And so we'll follow the rubrics for the polyelios to figure out what hymns and what prayers were supposed to be read. So, and you can go through and find all the other signs as well. Now, funny story to illustrate the reason why the typicon is so important. When I was in seminary, my first year of seminary, for our liturgics class, we had this wonderful, wonderful priest, Father Sergei Maratkanov, who he was a fairly he wasn't cynical. What is that word? He knew seminarians well, right? So he was not in delusion about the fact that most seminarians did not find liturgics particularly interesting. I love liturgics, but you would call up a student and you'd say, all right, well, let's go through a service for, pick a day. And he picks a day and says, okay. So, or you would start with this Saturday night, which was the liturgical services for Sunday. It's fairly simple because it's a resurrectional service. It's always a vigil rank service. So it's going to be in the second to left column, second to last on the left column. Actually, I suppose in a certain sense, the resurrectional vigil, it's a vigil. It's always a vigil rank, right? So it's a very festive service. And so it's actually fairly easy to remember. It's a service that most people are at, especially seminarians, hopefully have been there quite a few times. And so it should be a familiar service. So you start with that. And the person goes through, okay, so you open up the Orologion, you have the prayers there, or the psalms and the different parts of the service there. And then we get to Lord I Call. And it says, okay, so where do you get the Lord I Call verses from? Well, the Octuekos verses, for that day, it's, it's not a, he opens up the Octuekos, right? Finds the verses for that tone. Let's say it was tone 3. So he opens up tone 3 for Sunday, has the verses there. And then he says, well, what about the saint for that day? What rank is the saint? And Father Sergei, he would say, the real reason why we have the typicon is that it's a nice armrest. You can put your put your elbow on, and rest your head as you're looking through, the services for this coming week or whatever, right? Father Sergei did this, not me. And the student would get to, it's like, well, what rank is it? You're like, well, I don't know, I don't know what rank it is. And say, well, now we got to open the typicon, So he opens up the typicon and we find whatever rank of service it is, and then you have to go through, right? And so it is a very useful book to have and know. Most people don't do this, though, correct? Or obviously, not correct, but obviously, most priests don't open up the typicon for every Sunday service and figure out what hymns they're supposed to take from which, books and whatnot, because we have commissions that do that for us and make our lives easy. Again, I don't know what the Greek or the Antiochian practices necessarily are, but I imagine it's something similar. I know in the OCA and in ROCOR, there are rubrics that are published, yearly rubrics. ROCOR does an excellent job, and they generally take the Moscow Patriarch rubrics, I believe. Although no, actually there are some differences that I've noticed. So they don't. They actually must compile them themselves. But there's a book that they sell. It has all of the rubrics in it. What stichira, what all the different prayers, all the different psalms, all the different hymns that you're supposed to have for that specific day, for that specific service, and so it's very convenient. There's also a couple of websites. I don't think in English there's anything that we have yet, but there's a website for it's a Russian website. Aghast. It's a Russian website that you can go to and punch in a day and put in whatever saints you want to serve for that day as the first saint or the second saint or whatever, and you can pick the rank of the service that you want it to be, and then it'll spit out the rubrics as it's supposed to be. So, but it's good to know the fundamentals of how those rubrics are not established, but calculated, you could say. So back to our graphic. As I said, there are 6. So if we count up top here, there is the leftmost on the top. The circle with the cross in it is the sign for great feasts. So that there are 12 major feasts throughout the year. They are a mixture of feasts for the Theotokos and for our Lord. Let's see if I can list them off in chronological order. They begin conveniently with the birth of the Theotokos in September. This is all according to the Julian calendar. It's actually according to the Julian calendar looking through the Gregorian calendar, I suppose, actually. So, but anyway, Rabbit Trail, the Nativity of the Theotokos, the Exaltation of the Cross, the entrance of the Theotokos into the temple, Nativity of Christ, Theophany, then Palm Sunday. Pascha is not one of the 12 major feasts. It is, as we sing in the canon for Pascha, it's the Feast of Feasts. So we have Palm Sunday, as I said, then Ascension, Pentecost, the Transfiguration, Dormition, and there's one I'm missing. Oh, Annunciation. So those are the 12 major feasts. Those are going to be the ones that we would follow the leftmost column for those feasts. I just realized there was a part of this that I didn't translate. I apologize about that, but we'll get to that in a moment. So the next column, second to the left, is a vigil rank service. Now, historically, there were very few vigil rank services. It's a very, very festive service that really follows much of the same structure as the 12 major, the vigil rank for the great feasts. And so, there was the feast for Saint Nicholas, this feast for Saint Vladimir of Kiev. This is again for the Slavic tradition. The Archangel Michael. There was John the Baptist, Saint John the Baptist, the beheading of Saint John the Baptist, or the feast of Saint John the Baptist, and there's a few others that I wish I had kept. I wish I had on by memory. But in any case, historically there were very few of them, and in modern times, when saints have been canonized, often they are given a vigil rank. Which seems, it's actually an interesting observation that historically you have these big saints that, big in the sense of, there's a great devotion for them, their lives are incredible. We would never want to say that necessarily that one saint is less than the next. But, you would have saints that were really incredible saints, right? Had an incredible lives, and there was great devotion to them, and yet they had a simple service, right? Like they would have the farthest on the right column. So I think my point to that I'm bringing up here is that just because a saint isn't a vigil rank or has no sign, right? There's no festal sign for his service. It's not a sign of him being a lesser saint or whatnot. There's not, that a vigil rank is better than a daily service or a simple service. It's just the different notes, you could say, in the orchestra of the liturgical composition, right? And so daily services are beautiful. Most of the time, people don't get to see them because most of the time you come to service for many people is just on the weekends, and of course, as I said, the weekend is always a vigil rank service, so it's very festive, very festal. It has these the parts that are only for vigil rank. If you go to a simple service, it's simpler. There's some parts that are taken out. And so, but what's made up, it's a human way of thinking of it, I suppose, but what's lacking in festivity is made up with shortness. So you get, the simple services are often a little bit shorter, so they're not as taxing as, a full vigil rank service. If you do full vespers, full matins without cutting anything, is going to be about 3.5 or 4 hours. So it's a very festive service, but it is long. So, next is the polyelios, which is thus just the cross, as we see. The next is the red funny sign, which is a doxology service. The next is the Sixtistihira, and then there's the final rank is really one. On the top there it says no sign or two lesser saints, but it's the same rank of service. There's no sign in the typicon. So and here, let me show exactly what that means in the typicon. Let's see here. We need. Okay, so here's a good example. Here it is the 15th day of June, and the first saint for that day is the prophet Amos, and there's no sign. So this is a simple service. Let's see how many there are. Yeah, it's a simple service. But then on that same day, we also have the feast of Jonah, the Metropolitan of Moscow, and his service is a doxology rank service. It has the cross there. So that's why it's called a no sign service, because in the typicon there is no sign for that service. Often, I think in English, it's also often called just a simple service. So, what does all this mean? What are all these different ranks and whatnot? Well, there are two more important fundamental things we need to understand before we get into the nitty-gritty of the specific hymns and whatnot that are said for vespers and matins and the other services. So, as we see here on the in the left column where it says type of vespers, we see great vespers and there's daily vespers. So there are two forms of vespers. There's daily vespers and there's great vespers. Again, most of the time in parish practices, I would say unfortunately, we just serve great vespers. Most of the time, if we're even serving during the week for a saint, it's a saint that has a sign in the typicon, and so most of the time we're serving. It's a higher rank service, and so we're serving great vespers. Anything above a polyelios is a great vespers. But there are some services under doxology that people still serve as great vespers for, which it's practice, but it's we're not following the rubrics. So anyway, there are two forms of vespers, and they vary slightly in their structure, and we'll go over that in a minute. Matins, there are three forms of matins. There's simple or daily matins, there's doxology rank matins, and there is vigil rank matins. Did I say, or is it vigil, or actually, let me check here. Sorry, polyelios matins, not vigil rank. Yeah, vigil rank is the overall service. So we have daily matins, doxology matins, and polyelios matins. So, and again, the internal structure will vary slightly, very slightly, based off of what form of vespers or matins it is. So this might seem to be getting a little bit complicated because you have the daily cycle of services where you have these 8 services, 9 services with liturgy, that also a few of the services have different forms. So, but this is the rubrics. So you gotta just let your mind kind of absorb it, and hopefully it'll make sense after the 4th or the 5th episode of this. So we're gonna start going through simple vespers. So we'll go through, or daily vespers, which is served for the no sign service, or the simple service of a saint, the 6 Stihira service, and the doxology rank service of saints. So for those, all of those services, there is no little vespers. Now wait a sec. What is little vespers? Now there's little vespers. No, okay. Don't worry about little vespers for now. We'll get to it later. So for now, there's only 8 services, 9 with liturgy that you have to worry about. And there's 2 forms of vespers and 3 forms of matins. So now we go further down, and we go to the type of vespers, or so it's daily. Vespers begins, if it's daily vespers, oh man. If it's daily vespers, it should begin just with, "O come, let us worship God our King," without the Trisagion prayers, because you should have served 9th hour before. But if you don't serve 9th hour before daily vespers, then you would serve, or you would begin with, "Blessed is our God always, now and ever and unto the ages of ages," the exclamation. And then you go into the Trisagion prayers, "O come, let us worship God our King," and you begin Psalm 103, 102, depending on what numeration system you use. What your preferred numeration system is. So it's the psalm that begins, "Bless the Lord, O my soul." Oh, and then I get the there's 2 psalms. The next psalm is one of the antiphons for liturgy. So it's read, the entire psalm is read, and then immediately after that, you go into the Great Litany. We have the Great Litany, and then after the exclamation for the Great Litany, you go into a kathisma. Well, what is a kathisma? Let me go get a psalter. So the kathismas come from the Psalter, which is the book of Psalms. Psalter, Psalms. So there are 150 psalms. And those psalms are broken into 20 sections, or 20 fairly equal groups, right? So generally, or in many cases, you have 3 sections in each kathisma of 3 psalms. So you have 9 psalms in each kathisma. But you have some psalms that are longer, some psalms that are shorter, so it varies. But you have a number of psalms, okay, so again, there's 20 sections, or 20 divisions of the psalms into 3 sections. So each kathisma is comprised of 3 sections, and each of those sections have between 1 and 9 psalms, depending on the length of the psalm. So for daily vespers, you read whatever is the appropriate kathisma for that day. So let's see if the, let me see if the, no, there's not. Oh, yeah, I think there is. Okay. So, okay, let's see. There should be a division. Okay, order of reading of the Psalter, Kathisma, outside Great Lent. So, for Mondays, for Vespers, it would be the sixth Kathisma. For Tuesday, it would be the 9th Kathisma. For Wednesday, it's the 12th. Again, for daily Vespers. For Thursday, it's the 15th. Friday, the 18th. And Saturday evening, the 1st Kathisma. The entire 1st Kathisma. And I'm underlining entire because for Great Vespers, many times we sing just the first section of the 1st Kathisma, but we'll get to that later. So for daily Vespers, we read one of the Kathismas, one of the 20 divisions of the Psalter, right after the Great Litany. That's why it says ordinary, the ordinary Kathisma according to the cycle. I don't know exactly if there is a assigned or there's a common term for that, for that part or that Kathisma. Whatever the cyclical, assigned Kathisma is for that service for that day. Next. Okay, so now we're going to the Stichira. So after the Kathisma, for Vespers, we have the Lord I Call Stichira, which for daily Vespers will be 6 Stichira. So a Stichira is a hymn that's often written by the saints, for that feast or for that saint, right? And so if you look in the Millennia, it'll often say the composition of Saint John Damascene has written wrote many of the Stichira. I don't have an example in front of me, which is unfortunate. So Stichira are these paragraph long, about, or short, a few sentences, hymns for the saint or for the feast day, right? So as we see here, for the no rank, no sign services, there are 3 Stichira for the saint. If there's 2 lesser saints, quote unquote lesser saints, that are put together in one service, then there will be 3 Stichira for one saint, 3 Stichira for the next saint. If it's just a simple one saint service, then you'll have 3 Stichira from the Octoekos. Again, the Octoekos is the 8 tones that we cycle through each week. And so you would go, let's say this is a Monday evening service for Tuesday, starting the liturgical day of Tuesday. And so we would go to, and let's say it's tone 3. So we would open up the Octoekos to tone 3, find Vespers for Monday evening, which would actually be for Tuesday. And then we would see 3 Stichira, or we'd take 3 of the Stichira for the Lord I Call from the Octoekos, and we would place those in, and those go first. And then we have the 3 Stichira for the saint, and then for the 6 Stichira service or doxology service, you have 3 Stichira in the Millennia that will be for the saint or the feast. So whatever's being commemorated. So there'll be 3 Stichira that are specially written for that thing. So you don't take anything from the Octoekos. Then we have. I'm surprised actually. There's not a line here for the glory both now verses, which is unfortunate, because you have glory both now, and then also a Stichira taken either from the Octoekos or from the Millennia, depending on the rank of the service. Right after that, normally, for most people, you would have or what most people would be used to seeing is to see the priest come out, or the priest and the deacon come out with the censer, and there would be the entrance, and then where you sing O Gladsome Light. For, according to the rubrics, according to the Typicon, for these three ranks, the three lower ranks of the services, you don't have an entrance. So the royal doors stay shut, and you just chant, O Gladsome Light, at which time the priest goes to the high place in the altar and faces west, faces the people, and immediately after the singing of O Gladsome Light, you have the Prokeimenon for the day. And the Prokeimenon for Vespers, each day, is based off of what day it is, right? So there are 7 daily Prokeimenons. Everyone will be familiar with the Prokeimenon for Saturday evening, which is the Lord is King, he is clothed in majesty, right? So that is because that is the Prokeimenon for Sunday Vespers, or for Saturday evening Vespers for Sunday. And it's a great Prokeimenon, in fact. The Prokeimenon for Sunday has 4 verses, or has 3 verses, and so you sing it a total of 5 times. Whereas for the daily Prokeimenons, for all the other days of the week, the other 6 Prokeimenons, for Vespers, you only sing them 3 times. 2.5 times is what I was going to say, but the reason it's 2.5 times is because that's the way the priest or the deacon chants it, right? The priest chants it once, the choir repeats it, the priest chants the verse, the choir repeats the Prokeimenon, and then the priest chants half of the first half of the Prokeimenon, and the choir finishes singing the second half. But for great Prokeimenons, for Saturday evening, and then for the major feast days, for Pascha, for all of Bright Week, for the Vespers, for major feast days. So for Nativity, Vespers not for the feast, but the Vespers on the feast for the next day. You also have a great Prokeimenon, which is oftentimes for the feast of the Lord. It's who is so great a God as our God? Thou art the God who workest wonders. And so again, you have this. It's a great Prokeimenon, and so you sing it 5 times. The priest will say the deacon will say the Prokeimenon. The choir repeats it. There's 1 verse, the choir repeats the Prokeimenon. The second verse, choir repeats the Prokeimenon. Third verse, choir repeats the Prokeimenon. And then the priest or the deacon chants the first half of the Prokeimenon, and the choir finishes it. So that's the Prokeimenon. Since it is the lesser ranks of services, the 3 ranks of services, there is no Old Testament readings after the Prokeimenon, and there is no litia with the stichira and the blessing of the loaves. And so you go right into the apostica, the aposticha. A lot of these words are Greek. They're just anglicized Greek words. So the stichiron is a short hymn, right? A short verse, I suppose you could say. In any case, that's where a lot of these words come from. So the aposticha, I think it would be aposticha in Greek, although I'm not 100% positive about that, follows the Prokeimenon. Sorry, I hear my son crying in the background. I don't know if you hear that as well. So for the, as we see here, for the no rank saints, and for the 6 stichira rank, the stichira for the octoekos, or the stichira for the apostica, will be taken from the octoekos. And in certain cases, you will have to look in the Menaion to see if there will be a stichiron for glory. But the stichira themselves will be taken from the octoekos. So again, you would open up the octoekos to the tone for that week. You would open up Vespers for that day, for whatever day of the week it is, and you'd go till you'd find the apostica, and you'd take the verses, or the stichira for the apostica from there. Now for a doxology rank service, we have the stichira that will actually be specially written for the saint or for whatever event is being commemorated that day, taken from the Minnaean. So there will be those hymns especially for the day. After that, we have the Lord, we sing or chant, Lord, let us how thy servant depart in peace, which is a part, that needs to be put in this chart. That is a non-movable or non-variable part of Vespers. You always have, after the Apostica, you have, Lord, now let us how thy servant depart in peace. After which you have the Trisagion prayers from Holy God, Holy Mighty, Holy Immortal, have mercy on us, till the Our Father. After the Our Father, you have the Triperia that are sung for the day. And actually, I forgot to mention, again, it's not in here in this chart, which is why I did not mention it, which is unfortunate. Yes, I apologize, but we actually need to backtrack a little bit because there is a couple of parts, non-variable parts of the daily Vespers that we skipped. So right after the Perkimenon, you have the prayer, vouchsafe, O Lord, to keep us this evening without sin, which, as I said in our first episode, is actually the point when the liturgical day changes to the next day. And so, as I said, upcoming here in a couple of weeks, Forgiveness Sunday Vespers, if we follow the rubrics, which I'm not telling anyone to criticize their priest if they don't, because it is very difficult to change vestments in the amount of time it takes a reader to read Vouchsafe, O Lord, to keep us this evening without sin, right? It's a prayer that takes about 20 seconds to read. If it's sung, maybe 30 seconds. So it's very difficult to change your vestments. You have to have, at least you have to have the cuffs already on and wear 2 sets of cuffs and just take them off and put on, But in any case, if a priest decides to just put on black vestments from the very beginning of Vespers, I'm not criticizing that. But just as according to the rubrics, at Vouchsafe, O Lord is when the day changes to the next, and so you would have you would see that change from the gold vestments for Sunday into the black vestments for Lent at Forgiveness Sunday Vespers would happen at Vouchsafe, O Lord. So after Vouchsafe, O Lord, the prayer, we have the Просительная Ктения, which is, it is the Litany of Fervent Supplication is what it's called in English. And that's the one where we have 5 petitions of Lord of Mercy, and then we switch to Grant it, O Lord, or Grant this, O Lord, depending on whatever your church uses as their translation. After that litany, then we go into the Apostica. So I apologize for that parenthetical return to an earlier part of Vespers, but again, we have the Apostica, then now let us allow thy servant depart in peace, Trisagion prayers, and then we go into the Triperia for the day. If there is not a Triperion for, and the rest of this is all for Matins, so I will take away our graphic. There should always be a Triperia for the saint or for the feast day, because if there isn't a Triperion that is written specially for the saint or the feast day, then you would use the general Triperia, and in some cases you insert the saint's name. In some cases it's just a general Triperia for the rank of the saint, if he's a martyr or an apostle, a venerable saint, or a hierarch. Unmercenary, right? There are Triperia that are written for just general Triperia for those saints, and there's general services, Minnaean services also. So in certain cases there is no service for a specific saint, but there are services that are written specially for monastic or for venerable saints, not monastic saints, venerable saints, for hierarchs, for martyrs, for unmercenary saints. So they're You can take those general services, generic services, kind of this you know, I don't know exactly what I don't know what the term in English should be. So anyway, you'd take that generic service for the saint, and you would use that for his feast day. After the Triperia, you have the litany of the augmented litany. That's what it's called, the augmented litany, where we sing Lord of Mercy 3 times after each petition. And for daily Vespers, the first 2 petitions, where you sing Lord of Mercy once, are omitted. So you begin, or you could say they just aren't there. Maybe they're not omitted, but they're not prescribed for daily Vespers. And so you begin immediately with, have mercy on us, O God, according to thy great mercy, we pray thee, hearken and have mercy. And after that, you have the dismissal. So the order of litanies, where the litanies are a obvious difference between daily Vespers and great Vespers, right? So for great Vespers, we don't, probably not even going to be here on this chart. Huh, interesting. Okay, so again, I need to perfect my chart, but actually, why don't we just go through great Vespers, and then we can, and I'll point it out once we get to it. So for the higher ranks of services, for the polyelios and for the vigil rank services, both the saint vigil, all night vigil, and for the great feasts, we serve great Vespers, which begins. Oh man, this now gets complicated. How are we going to do this? We're going to go through just Vespers, great Vespers, for a polyelios rank service. How long have we been going for? 50 minutes? I don't want to make this too long. We might have to go through great Vespers next time. You know what? No, we're going to go through great Vespers for a polyelios rank service, and then we'll do the vigil rank services next time. I think that'll be good, because then we'll get into what little Vespers is and the kind of the nuances of vigil rank. So, great Vespers, the simple great Vespers, because I keep switching back and forth between the graphic, but great Vespers also has kind of a form, 2 forms in the form of great Vespers, right? So there's the daily service of Vespers, and then you have daily Vespers, and you have great Vespers, and then you have kind of 2 forms of great Vespers, depending on if it's a polyelios rank service or on a full vigil rank or a great feast Vespers, great Vespers. So we're going by complexity or festivity upwards, right? We've covered daily Vespers. Now we're going to go to great Vespers in its simpler form, you could say. So in this sense, you begin Vespers the same way that you would begin daily Vespers. So if you served 9th hour, then you would go right into, "O come, let us worship God our King," and right into Psalm 103, and you read Psalm 103 all the way through, which is going to be one of the differences with the festive great Vespers. Psalm 103 is sung. But let's not get into that. We read all the way through Psalm 103, and then we have the Great Litany. After the Great Litany, we go into the Blessed is the Man. Remember, I said for these higher ranks, we don't read a full catechism. We don't read a full section of one of these 20 sections of the Psalter. We read just this first. I can even show it. Maybe that would have been good in the first place. So the first catechism is comprised of Psalm 1, Psalm 2, Psalm 3, and then we have Glory both now. This is the first section. So 1, 2, and 3 is section number 1. Then we have Psalm 4, 5, and 6, and then we have another Glory. So we we finish. That's the second section, and then 7 and 8 are section 3. We don't. Yes. So and so that's a full kathisma. For Polyelios, for Polyelios and the individual rank Vespers, we only sing the first section of this kathisma, right? So 1, 2, and 3, Psalms 1, 2, and 3, and in practice, only specific about 10 verses from those 3 psalms are sung. So it's a fairly short addition to the service, but according to the rubrics, you're supposed to sing the entire first section of the kathisma. So that's that. That's one difference between Great Vespers and Daily Vespers. Then we get, after Blessed is the Man, that first section of the first kathisma, we have a small litany that is served. It's again not in this thing. I need to add that into this graph. But we have a small litany, after which we go into Lord I Call. And for the Polyelios rank service, you either have 6 or 8 stichira for the saint or the feast. So we sing through, and then you'll have a stichiron for glory, and the stichiron for both now is going to be the generally going to be the dogmatic. I think it's called the doxasticon, but it's the dogmatic, which is the generally it'll be the you take it from Saturday night Vespers, both now for Saturday night Vespers, for the tone which glory is in. Right? So, for example, if let's take a major or a big feast or okay, let's actually just find an example. So we're looking for a Polyelios rank service. That is a great feast. So this is okay. So it's for the Apostle James. Yes, the Apostle James, the brother of John. So we go to Lord I Call. There are 8 stichira for Lord I Call. Let's see, Podobin, Придите. And then we have glory in the 8th tone. So the stichiron for glory, for St. James, for Lord I Call, is in the 8th tone. And so we would go to the 8th tone in the Octoekos for Saturday night vigil, and we would find the 8th tone, or both now for the 8th tone, Saturday night vigil in the Octoekos, and that's what we would sing for the both now. Now, if anyone's actually going to look in the Typicon, there's actually a different stichiron that you would sing for that, for St. James, because there is a feast, a great feast, that's also celebrated during his time. So, but I don't want to try to. I'm trying to keep the cohesiveness of this my rhetoric or my lecture, sane. So, anyway, footnote for those that know. But generally, you will take the both now, the dogmatic, which you'll find Saturday night vigil for the tone of glory for the saint. So that is that, and then we have the entrance with the censer. And so the royal doors will be opened. The priest and the deacon, or just the priest, will come out with the censer. They say, "Wisdom, stand upright." At which point we sing, "O gladsome light." The priest and the deacon, the clergy, enter into the altar, and then we have the same, same process, or the same, what is this called? The same section of the Prokimenon, follows the same structure. But immediately after the Prokimenon, rather than going into Vouchsafe, O Lord, we have the augmented litany, right? Remember the augmented litany was the one where we sing Lord have mercy 3 times, and it's at the end, after the Tropary, it's at the end of daily Vespers. Well, for Great Vespers, it's after the right after the Prokimenon, if there are no Old Testament readings, which of course I forgot to say. Man, terrible, just terrible. Okay, so after the Prokimenon, you have 3 Old Testament readings for the saint or for the feast day. So, my apologies. And after the Old Testament readings, then you have the augmented litany, and you have those 2 petitions that I mentioned at the beginning, where you sing Lord have mercy once. So it's a longer version of the augmented litany, a fuller version, you could say, of the augmented litany that's prescribed for Great Vespers. After that, you have Vouchsafe, O Lord, after which you have the Litany of Fervent Supplication, just like in daily Vespers. And after that, you have, you can have a litia with stihira. You see here it's a plus or a minus. It depends on the saint. So there may be a stihira for a litia, which is when the priest or the clergy come out into the sanctuary. It's actually prescribed to go all the way out into the to the narthex. And in the entrance of the church, you serve the litia, which is these special stihira that are for that section of the service. Again, these hymns for the feast. And then after that, there are 4 or 5 petitions that have long responses for them, right? So they're long petitions. Save, O God, thy people, and bless an inheritance. It's a very long petition that asks for the intercession of many, many saints. And there is, you sing Lord of Mercy 40 times after that petition. Then the next petition commemorates the hierarchs and other people, and there you sing Lord of Mercy I believe 50 times after that. In practice, people only sing it 12 times for the first 2 petitions, but it's 50 times. And then for a third petition that some churches ROCOR adds in, other practices don't have it. You sing it 30 times, and then for the last 2 petitions of the litia, you sing Lord of Mercy 3 times. So you have this is this kind of section of the service where you have these special petitions with fervent responses, right? And then after the final exclamation by the priest, which is a long prayer, again recounting asking the intercession of the saints, you go into the apostica. So again, the litia is just added into kind of this skeleton of structure of what Vespers is as the daily cycle of the services, right? So Vespers, little or daily Vespers and Great Vespers aren't separate services. They're just different forms that have a structure, a skeleton that is the exact same, and there are just a few elements that are added in or repositioned depending on the rank of the service. 1 second. Okay, so continuing on, we had the Stihira, the Apostica. After the Apostica, again, we go into the Lord, now let us let thy servant depart in peace. The Trisagion prayers, Holy God, to our Father. After the Our Father, we have the Troparia for the feast. And after that, we would go into we would have the dismissal and yeah, we'd have the dismissal actually. So that's it. So I think that's good for now. Oops. I think we'll end our our stream here unless anyone has any questions. While people are writing questions, I think there's a little bit of a lag with the stream, but I will remind everyone about the Lenten series that's upcoming. Just a little over a week will begin the first homily of Saint Innocent of Kherson. That's only, these homilies are only available to be consumed for free on YouTube in audio format just during Lent. So they'll be opened up for everyone's edification each day of the when the homily was given, and as soon as Pascha hits, we're gonna take them all down until next Lenten season. And and so we have some very exciting news about some upcoming projects. So I ask everyone to stay tuned, subscribe, share with your friends, share with your churches if you want. And I'll see you next stream. Bye-bye.